As a result of substantial incident from one of the LMP2 cars in the LMS free practice session earlier. Pleased to say some positive reports coming back about the driver. We'll tell you the car on the right hand side there won't be in this session. That's the rather fabulous Lola Aston Martin. It's just been taking part in the historic race series that supports the LMS here this weekend.
Yeah, so we are running about 20 minutes late, but actually, all things considered, that's pretty good. And free practice 2 for the European Le Mans Series cars was extended because of the amount of time taken out by the red flag earlier on today. So not too much track time lost for the ELMS teams, but we're going to concentrate on the Michelin Le Mans Cup, well in its stride now for this year. And of course, this is a championship that started back in 2016 when it was GT3s alone, and then that year the Road to Le Mans event, which takes place during Le Mans week, also invited LMP3s, and that was considered a very good idea. So into 2017 it became a two-pronged championship for both LMP3 prototypes and for the GT3 cars. These are the 2-hour races, so Paul Ricard on the 13th of April this weekend at Monza, and then after this we go into 1-hour races during Le Mans week, which is half championship points for each, one on Thursday morning and one on the morning of race day, Saturday morning. Great exposure and a great opportunity for these drivers to drive the full Le Mans circuit. Absolutely.
Last year the race morning event saw the Lannon Racing pairing, Duncan Tappy and Mikey Benham, take the win, and boy were they delighted on that podium in front of a huge crowd assembling for the start of the Le Mans 24 Hours. They lead the championship by dint of a win at Paul Ricard last time out. First up though, Johnny, we're going to see 15 minutes with the GT cars and an improved field both in terms of variety and the numbers this year in the GT3 cars. 10 cars here to take to the track, and we've got representatives from Ferrari, Lamborghini, Mercedes-AMG, Porsche, and of course the Aston Martin, the Beach Dean AMR car.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pit exit should be green. Pit exit is green.
Also great to see Italian flags resplendent on the entry list for Scuderia Villorba Corsa, for Ebby Motors with their 88 Porsche, and also for Krypton Motorsport with the Mercedes AMG number 35 of Marco Zanutini and Stefano Pizzucchi. Now, special thing about qualifying for the GT3s and the LMP3s is it has to be a bronze driver. Remember, drivers rated by the FIA in this type of racing: bronze, silver, gold and platinum. We have one or two golds in the entry, but they're absolutely barred from taking part in qualifying. The onus, therefore, on the less experienced driver, and this is really to give, again, that particular pilot as much track time as possible and key responsibility as to where the car starts on the grid later today.
Yeah, let's go through the drivers that are actually out there for this session. From the top, it's the Scuderia Villorba Corsa number 7 car. That is the Mercedes AMG of the 2 cars in the GT class. That is going to be in the hands of Roberto Pambolini, Swiss driver in the Italian team. Kessel Racing's number 8 car will be Sergio Pianazzola aboard the number 8 Ferrari 488. Kessel's 50 car, John Harshon, well-known racer in endurance racing circles. The 35 Krypton car has just actually left the pit lane. That is going to be taken out by Stefano Pizzucchi for this 15 minutes of qualifying. Christoph Ulrich, I believe, will join in the 51 car from the Spirit of Race. The SBS Automotive Performance AMG, the 54 car, that car will be Dexter Muller, with a Swiss driver aboard that car. Fabien Laverne, who's been a bit of a standout in the racing so far, both in the Michelin Le Mans Cup and the LMS, is aboard the 71 Lusitz racing car. It is Cedric Mizard from France in the Lamborghini from the Scuderia Villorba Corsa. That car, by the way, different car than we saw at Ricard, but still to the older spec, the black Lamborghini. EB Motors with their new Porsche 911 GT3R. They've got both cars actually under the awning here, and that one is going to be Alessandro Beccani from Italy, and Andrew Howard in the fastest ice cream van in the world, the number 99 Beach Dean AMR, the new twin-turbo V8 Vantage. And we're going on to, Johnny, the first flying laps as I speak.
You mentioned Alessandro Beccani's name. He was the guy that bagged pole 12 months ago here at Monza with his teammate Paolo Venerossi, so they've stayed together as a duo and back with Ebby Motors in the 88 Porsche. Certainly could look strong. Italian squad, but with a very German car. And this being the backyard of Ferrari, but you know, it'll be those cars that will be wanting to lock out pole position, but there are some strong competitors, including the Lamborghini Huracan of Scuderia Villorba Corsa, the Aston Martin from Beechdean, and the Mercedes from, again, Villorba Corsa, have a mixed field under their awning, or mixed entry under their awning. Krypton's Mercedes and the SPS entry as well from Germany. So we're not far away from the first third of this session already being done. You have not got much time to hang around here. That's why it's key to be in the queue and as far up the queue as possible when the lights go green at the end of the pit lane. And then get in the session as quick as POS2, maybe put in a banker lap, and then there's perhaps the opportunity to dive into the pit lane, take new Michelin tyres and go for a second run. But you won't be able to switch your driver unless there are 2 bronzes in your squad, and then that is permitted. But it's also taking quite a bit of time out of the session if you do decide to switch drivers.
Watching Fabien Laverne coming towards the end of his first flying lap. He's put in the first purple sectors in 1 and 2 on this lap. Will therefore, unless something utterly appalling happens in this final sector, go to the top of timing and scoring and stay there for some little while. Runs wide through Parabolica, but well within track limits there. The ever-seeing eye of Eduardo Freitas will be keeping an eye on that one. To the top, 1:51.754 with just under 11 minutes remaining.
Cars look fantastic through the each of the chicanes, whether that be at the very start of the lap when you're coming from such high speed down the main straight, the grandstand straight, and into that right and left technical chicane, then up to Roggio Secco, the second of those chicanes after Curva Grande. And these corner names just reel off the tongue. Parabolica, the final sweeping right-hander, which brings one parallel straight to the home straight, the back straight to the start-finish, and incredibly wide there as well. But then the pinch point, particularly when we come to the race later on today, is into that first chicane. A glimpse of all 3 Mercedes there in a very short space of time. The 35 is the Krypton Motorsports entry.
That's going very quickly indeed as we pass through 10 minutes to go, and I think this car is going to go to the top atomic and scoring. Fabien Laverne under a little bit of pressure from Alessandro Beccani. There's just half a second between the top 2. That's the Luzic Racing Ferrari from the EB Motors Porsche, but indeed Bazzucci goes to the top. AMG from Ferrari, from Porsche, the opening battles of this session.
Important to get a good exit out of the second of the Lesmos. Of course, that's then the run through Serralio and into the Ascari chicane, the 3-element Ascari chicane, which is exactly where the number 7 car has just arrived. That's the Scuderia Villorba Corsa Mercedes, also of Italy, in that sort of copper-coloured, orangey metallic with the black. And it's coming down now the long back straight towards Parabolica. So this is Roberto Pampanini.
And going well. Bazzucci has lost his pole-setting lap to track limits at turn 10, so drops to the bottom and goes immediately purple in the first sector this time around, though. So this, I think, is going to be a bit of a topsy-turvy session. 9 minutes to go. Improvement from Fabien Laverne. He's now 2.0 now seconds ahead of Pampanini. It's a 1:49.976. Kenneth Sola, though, goes mighty close, Johnny.
Much tighter now. So from 2 seconds, we've gone to 1.5 tenths between Fabien Laverne, who was the star at Paul Ricard, whether that be in the Michelin Le Mans Cup race or indeed for Luzic Racing in the European Le Mans Series. Did a double stint at the start of the ELMS race, you may remember, and led it by a country mile. Well, he's now being run close by Sergio Pianezzola for Kessel Racing. 0.156 of a second is the gap from 71 Ferrari and 8 Ferrari.
Watch though for Bazzucci. He's coming down towards Parabolica at the end of his second flying lap. Lost the first, remember, that put him on provisional pole for track limits. Has he kept it on the island this time? We're about to see, because he's coming roaring now out of the final turn down towards the start-finish straight. This looks like it's good enough for provisional pole at this stage. It is by 0.825 a second. It's a 1:49.151. 8 minutes remain. Bazzucci from Laverne, Pianezzola, Beccani.
cracking effort. 8 tenths is huge, and Pazuki's lap from earlier on was rather impressive too, but he wasn't allowed to keep it because he abused the track limits too much. The 71 Ferrari of Fabien Laverne may be running a touch wide out of Ascari, but I think crucially he kept his left side Michelin tyres the right side of the white line, and now powering down dead straight towards Parabolica, the final corner.
And he's up in the first 2 sectors, not by much, but doesn't have to by much. He's up on the provisional pole sitting time as he comes down, round through Parabolica now towards the end of what will be his third flying lap rather, and he goes to the top. It's 0.035 of a second, just quicker. So quicker in all 3 sectors, but by tiny amounts.
Ferrari from Mercedes, from Ferrari, and then a Porsche. So it's really only Lamborghini and Aston Martin we need up there troubling the top 6 as well. The Lamborghini's currently 8th fastest. Cedric Mezar trying his hardest on this lap to improve its position for Scuderia Villorba Corsa. The Aston Martin of Andrew Howard is 9th fastest with a 154.1. 2 cars together, the second of which is the Ebby Motors 88 Porsche at the first chicane again. So Alessandro Baccani trying to repeat what he did 12 months ago here at Monza, but he's got 1.2 seconds to find. That car is the only Porsche in the entry and 4th fastest ahead of Christoph Ulrich's Ferrari, which is the Spirit of Race entry, number 51, as the Porsche earlier on going through the second chicane again, looking very, very dramatic.
This is the brand new Porsche 911 GT3R, the team trading up their car. Retaining the old car still, but this is the brand new one. Very effective indeed round here so far. Laverne, meanwhile, is going quicker. So is Pianazzola, so is Baccani, but I think Baccani may be just a little hampered in traffic there. Let's wait and see what that does to his lap time. Andrew Howard, meanwhile, the Aston Martin moves up from 9th to 8th with his latest efforts.
71, the fastest car of Fabien Laverne, now on the back straight, and behind him there's this little group of cars, 4 of them in total, that are probably using one another to draft down the start-finish straight and also down the long straight of Seraglio towards Ascari. So we'll see what sort of times they can eke out. The first of which on the little group is Roberto Pampanini's Mercedes, but Laverne over the line.
Well, as the first and third sectors purple, but didn't improve in the middle sector and did not improve overall, so it is still 0.035 of a second. The 8 car in the hands of Pianazzola is going to lose the lap he's just improved on. He's into the 49s and just 2/10 of a second back, but I think he's going to lose that lap, and does.
So Roberto Pampanini over the line. That was an improvement for the Mercedes, number 7. Stays in 5th place, but a 150.6. So it is tightening up around the top 5. It's just I don't think we've had any positional changes on that last time through. Still 4 3/4 minutes though to be done. And of course, if you squeeze an extra lap out of it, cross the line with a second remaining on the clock, your lap will count.
Absolutely.
So we could extend it by a further 2 minutes effectively this session.
Well, the last lap around, 6 cars improved their time, but none of them improved their position, so the gaps are just getting smaller here. And as we've seen time and time again with GT qualifying session, Johnny Palmer, this is what it tends to be like. The guys are learning in every session, and that's what we'd see, is we'd start to see these lap times coming down and down and down throughout the whole of the qualifying session. 4 minutes to go.
It's sort of unlike any other type of qualifying session when you got fully professional drivers who can sort of hit their marks first time out. It's fascinating to watch a 15-minute session in the Michelin Le Mans Cup develop and slowly see those that are best suited to any particular track rise to the surface, but it keeps us guessing.
Well, we are seeing some improvements now. Christoph Ulrich briefly goes to 4th. I think that someone's going to be beaten though, but the car he's just overhauled. This car, the EB Motors Porsche, quicker in both the first 2 sectors than the car that's just gone ahead of him on timing and scoring. We've got purple sectors as well for the 2nd and 3rd place cars on the current laps, and tiny gaps at the top here. Is this going to be enough for Pazucchi to go to the top? Pianazzola goes to the top. That's by 7 thousandths of a second. So 42 thousandths of a second currently cover the top 3.
So that margin from Laverne to, it was Pianazzola that was the 35 thousandths of a second, wasn't it? And that's
no, it was Pazucchi.
So that's changed as well then.
Yes, and Baccani's gone 4th, as I thought he might.
So, yeah, Pianazzola fastest by 7 thousandths. Then it's Laverne, who might still have a little bit more to offer. Remember, it was Laverne who took pole position last month at Paul Ricard. The Krypton Motorsport Mercedes is now using one of the Ferraris as a towing mechanism, and now darts to the inside at Parabolica to gain track position coming out of the final sweeping right-hander.
Again, she's going to be close to pole here.
Using the track limits and then some. 2 wheels over the white line. Let's see what the Mercedes can do in the Krypton Motorsport AMG. Over the line it goes. It's not an improvement, although it was an absolute best through the first sector. He couldn't carry that on through sectors 2 and 3. Maybe caught a little bit of traffic there. Fabien Laverne is up through the middle sector and is now at the Ascari chicane in the 71 Ferrari. So got the back straight to do. Got Parabolica and then the run to the line. Let's see whether this is enough to eke out just 8 thousandths of a second. That's all he needs to get back again, provisional pole position.
Another outstandingly close qualifying session in the GT class of the Michelin Le Mans Cup. We do talk about it being small and perfectly formed, more so this year, and the guys are really doling out entertainment here. 7 thousandths of a second, third to second. Is that going to go? 4 thousandths of a second now. He's closed the gap by just 3 thousandths of a second.
Goodness me.
That's got to be the most irritating thing in the world, isn't it?
Order is still the same, amazingly, but as you say, he sliced that huge margin of 7 thousandths to virtually half of it. There was a change as well further down.
That was Bacani improving his time, but not position. Still fourth, 0.282 of a second from pole.
Yeah.
Astounding stuff. Quarter of a second, all but a smidge covers the top 4, but half a tenth, in fact less than half a tenth, covers the top 3.
I'm going to beg to differ there. I think Bacani was 5th and he's now bagged himself potentially a second row start ahead of Pampanini and found more time. I mean, the biggest margin is now 4th to 5th fastest, which is virtually a second. So over to you, Roberto Pampanini, to see what that Mercedes can do. But we've got Ferrari, Mercedes, Porsche on the first 2 rows right now.
And not going to be very far away if he can keep this lap going is Christoph Ulrich. He's at the moment down in 6th, but going very quickly at the moment. No purple sectors, but improvements in both the first 2. And he's got a clear lap here with 32 seconds on the clock. He will complete this lap, and I think we'll go around one more time if he wants it. Great stuff.
Pianazzola and Giacomo Piccini, champions, remember, in this Michelin Le Mans Cup in 2018. They also lead the championship, having taken the win at Paul Ricard. So it's those guys, or Pianazzola solo versus Fabien Laverne, who took pole position at Ricard, and of course the win in the European Le Mans Series. Tremendous fight.
Yes, indeed. Christoph Ulrich does improve. He goes 5th in number 51 Spirit of Race Ferrari 488 GT3, a 149.662. The top 5 into the 149s. Any further improvement here? I don't believe it. He's shaved another Fabien Laverne at the checkered flag reduces his gap from, it was 7 thousandths 2 laps ago, down to 4 thousandths 1 lap ago. It's down to 3 thousandths.
And Kessel Racing might have been so quick on the draw there. They've just said to Sergio Pianazzola, pit, because he hasn't gone any quicker than you, although it's 3 thousandths of a second, so need not to carry on that lap. I don't think it was up to anything special in actual fact. And Kessel Racing looking like they'll take the first pole of the year.
Yeah, staggering consistency. That is absolutely amazing. That is 3 laps within, 4 thousandths of each other.
Amazing stuff. The Aston Martin of Andrew Howard coming round Parabolica, well, they're at reduced speed, and I'm sure the Brit will take to the pit lane. Yes, he does, in the Beach Dean ice cream liveried Aston Martin, and that car 8th fastest in the session. But
Andrew slicing time out of his best time throughout that session. That is what this is all about for Andrew Howard and the Beach Dean AMR team with their new toy.
On the previous lap, Christoph Ulrich slotting into 5th position, and that's now half a second, therefore, separating fastest from 5th quickest Spirit of Race, and it'll be Christoph who crosses the line in the next few moments. In fact, yes, just coming out of Parabolica now, and
takes the checkered flag.
Takes the checkered flag. Although that again was a decent lap, only 0.3 of a second off his best. He does not improve his time though, and it'll be a 5th placed start for the Spirit of Race Ferrari.
Staggering gap at the top, and it just got the more staggering as things went on. And, you know, all credit to the lap from Sergio Pianazzola, but Fabien Laverne just tried to get the hammer down there. Remember, 7 thousandths was the gap. It came down to 4 thousandths, shaved just to 3 thousandths of a second. And on the very next lap, shaved another thousandth of a second. I think he's going to be the most irritated man in that paddock.
You sense that might be the case, although that car looks very strong for the race later on today. And here at Monza, it'll be a Ferrari front row with Kessel and Lusick Racing, both of Switzerland, incidentally, to start from the front row. And congratulations to Sergio Pianazzola, winner at Paul Ricard. Fabien Laverne almost getting a second pole of the year. But we better get some reaction now from down in the pit lane and from Kessel Racing with Louise Beckett.
Well, the team was certainly surprised by that 3,000ths of a second. I can't believe that, Paul. Well done.
Yeah, incredible. It was Sergio did an amazing lap. The first sector was not perfect, but I don't know, he managed to do a second and third sector that was incredible. It's been really, really tough, but congratulations to him, to the team that prepared a fantastic car as usual, and we are really, really, really happy.
It's going to be an interesting race here at Monza.
Yeah, it is. For sure, with this very small gap, that there's not going to be any P3 in the middle, so he has to fight hard also in the race. Laverne, it's really, really strong, but also Petsucchi with the Mercedes. So it will be tough, but we will have fun for sure.
Thanks very much.
See you. Thank you, guys.
Giacomo Puccini and Sergio Pianazzola actually extend their championship lead because of that, so it's now up to a massive 8 points. And
barely worth bothering for the rest of the season.
Indeed, from Dexter Muller and Yannick Mettler, who are those guys here this weekend? Yes, they are.
Yes.
In the Mercedes.
Yeah, Dexter Muller was in that session and finished 7th in the session, the SPS Automotive car.
Indeed, so yeah. So look out for those guys coming through, and their race strategy got them into a great position at Paul Ricard a month ago. But Giacomo makes a really good point there. Sometimes we do get that overlap between GT3s, the fastest GT3s, and the slower LMP3s
Absolutely.
on the grid. It's going to be hard pushed to squeeze between 3 thousandths of a second. Here's confirmation of that qualifying result then. The Kessel Racing number 8 car taking pole just from Lusick Racing in the 71. 42 thousandths of a second slower, the Krypton Motorsport Mercedes, and then the Ebby Motors Porsche. So Ferrari, Mercedes, Ebby Motors, and Porsche rather, all represented in that top 4. Then it's a Ferrari from Spirit of Race and the number 7 Scuderia Vauban Corsa Mercedes to start from 6th position on the grid. The best Aston Martin, 8th fastest. The Lamborghini number 83 will start from 9th position, also for Scuderia Vauban Corsa.
Great to hear Giacomo Puccini, by the way, talking. What we done often here in international motorsport? Fun. And there is a great deal of that. You've got to get these guys motivated as well as improving. This is serious motorsport, serious international motorsport. There's a lot up for stakes, not just, of course, titles up for grabs, but also in the GT class. There is a Le Mans place up for grabs for 2020 at the end of this season for the GT3 class winners, won by Kessel Racing last year. They'll be at Le Mans with 2 488 GTEs. They're in the full season of the European Le Mans Series with those 2 cars as well. That's the 88 EB Motors car. They dearly love to win that place.
But along with Le Mans, 2 races there next month. This championship goes to Barcelona, goes to Spa-Francorchamps, goes to the Algarve circuit in the south of Portugal, and just tremendous circuits to take part in as far as this championship is concerned. And it's the perfect breeding ground as well for drivers that are brand new to motorsport to get used to GTs or to get used to prototypes and potentially put them into a good position to move into the European Le Mans Series at a later date.
And look, we saw the EB Motors squad there. They were title winners a couple of years ago. Before them, TF Sport. Both those crews now in GTE, firmly part of the scenery in ACO Rules Racing. Well, that was the entertainment doled out by 10 GT cars. Well, strap yourselves in, because we've got the 20, count them 20, of the LMP3 cars about to go out and do battle. And a colourful bunch they are, in every single meaningful way that you can interpret that word.
9 Norma M30s, so simple mathematics tells me that that's 11 Ligier JSP3s, all powered by the same 5-litre Nissan V8 engine, which just shakes you to your very core as they thunder by on the start-finish straight. it's fair to say, on this track, which is so important to have a car that's good down the tubes, it is Norma that's been dominant in free practice.
Yeah, very, very good in a straight line. It's the twisty bits that the Ligiers seem to actually thrive in. Let's wait and see how that pans out in qualifying trim for these cars. Tell you the fastest driver rather, across the weekend so far has been Colin Noble in the number 2 Nielsen Racing Norma, followed by Lawrence Heur.
I remember in the first practice session, though, Matt Bell was well up there, flying the flag for Ligier.
He was. He was fourth quickest in free practice 1.
Yes.
And the quickest Ligier in free practice 2 was Matt Bell. But this time, 8th quickest behind a squadron of Normas.
Yes. Yes, that was the one that struck me, just to say, you know, top 7 were all M30, so you're going to be hard pushed to get a Ligier anywhere closer to the front 2 rows, but you never know. And the thing is, the forecast for the race later on today, it's not great.
No.
There are some thunderstorms expected in this part of Italy later on today. Just a question of whether they arrive during the race between 4 and 6 p.m. locally.
And could that swing the pendulum of fate the way of the Ligiers? It might well.
Yeah, every chance of that. So 15 minutes of action to come. This is a fairly narrow circuit in places, certainly through the chicanes, and to get 20 cars out into the session and back safely again might be a little bit of an ask here, but it's a question of making sure you've got some clear air in front of you when you push for a fast lap, but that will be doubly difficult to find compared to the previous session. So we're about a minute and a half away from the cars being allowed to take to the circuit. There'll be a queue forming very soon indeed to make sure that you're the first out, basically. Although it's also rather important to get a tow. And looking at teams like United Autosports, who've brought 3 cars here this weekend, that could be pertinent to make sure you've got a buddy with you to use down the back straight and the main start-finish.
The beautifully finished number 22 car, Jim Maguire. The aero paint finish on that car, absolutely spectacular. Jim, the man behind aero, not vinyl paint, but not as you know it. And you can visibly see the difference in the finish on those cars. You look at the Cool Racing cars as well, they're also aero finished and look spectacular. It's about to be, Johnny Palmer, 160 of Nismo's finest pistons in action.
Yes, indeed. The number 3 car, caught a brief glimpse of a second or two ago, Francois Kerman installed in the DKR Engineering Norma, and it's DKR Engineering who've won every championship in LMP3 for the Michelin Le Mans Cup so far. They, in 2017, were victorious with their drivers that year, Alex Toril and Jean Gloria, you may remember, and then the following year Jens Pettersson and Leonard Hugenboom, who have since moved on into the European Le Mans Series. So there's an example of doing well in this championship and then getting your opportunity in the big show.
Green, green, green. Away we go for 15 minutes of what will be, I'm sure, engaging and entertaining action around this fabulous Monza circuit.
First car out, Mikey Benham, I notice, in the 25 machine, victorious at Ricard a month ago with his teammate Duncan Tappy. So they've elected to get to the end of the pit lane first. They have the crucial clear air. Let's see what Mike Benham can do then in the 25.
There's many things you can say about Mikey Benham, and enthusiastic is certainly one of them. He loves his racing. He's absolutely loving the fact that he's coming into real form right now. Tony Wells will be aboard the number 2 Nielsen car. Well, I said, but just 2 or 3 of the cars waiting to come out. John Schaumann switching this year to Cool Racing. He's out there in the number 4 car. Charlie Martin goes out in the number 11 Racing Experience car. Great story behind that team. Tom Olsen, the father of the father and son Olsen combo, is out in the 14 RLRM Sport car. Jim Maguire will take the 22 car out. Well, Hodes in the 23 United car. Mike Gouache, who is going to be contesting Michelin Le Mans Cup for the remainder of the season. Drops over into the 24 United car. Wolf in the CD Sport 30. Claudio Sadanovic in the 55 Spirited Race car.
And an outlap then, just to familiarise yourself with the current track conditions, because ambient temperature much lower than it was yesterday. The cloud cover will create a slightly different aerodynamic as well, and the potential with humidity fairly high and rain maybe in the air, that's going to be something to keep an eye on as well, mainly for the engineers on the pit wall to warn drivers of potentially slippery areas. I think we should, I don't want to say this too early, but get away with at least this session remaining dry. 12 minutes and 50 seconds to go as the early runners snake their way through the Ascari chicane, still trying to get some heat into the Michelin tyres as Mike Benham starts the first of his fast laps.
And all 20 cars are now on track. Final pair well, maybe half a second ahead of Mikey Benham. Yellow flag at turn 1, and that was a red car that had turned around. So Mikey Benham. Now, there was a black car in close contention, in close proximity rather to that. I'm just trying to remember which was the final other car. They did make contact, did they?
Well, he and Mikey Benham.
No,
the car that he was battling with.
The AT Racing car came out late with one other car.
Yes.
I'm just trying to sort out in my own mind which one it was.
I'm also trying to look at our little tracker to see which car is circulating right behind Benham's 25 now. Alexander Talkanitsa is in the AT Racing number 90 machine. Is that black? Could that have been the spinner?
No, it was a red car that had spun.
Fine.
Yeah, the AT Racing car Mikey overtook as they came through Curva Grande.
That's what I was getting confused with. Fair enough. Well, we may get another opportunity to witness that, and therefore identify said car. But Benham will be pleased to be incident-free so far. And this is a neat and tidy lap to kick off the session. He can then push for something better later on, but through Ascari, on the ragged edge of track limits, but he should be fine regarding this lap. 11 minutes to go, and already at the Parabolica then to complete lap 1, or flying lap 1.
It was Maritiotto, by the way, in the DKR car, I think, that was the guy turned around.
That would make sense. Sharing with Marco Cencetti.
Oh no, he couldn't have been because he just finished his outlap. It's not Maritiotto. We'll see. Benham is the first man through. It's 150.524, but that was a lap, remember, hampered by a car across the road in part of the first chicane.
Yeah.
Going back to that point now. Tony Wells comes through 3 seconds off at the moment. These times are gonna come a tumbling.
Jack Wolf over the line in the 30 CD Sport car. That CD Sport machine was up there, so certainly dicing for a podium position at Ricard. And at the moment then, as the early fast laps come through, top 6 include 5 Normas and just the Ligier from BHK Motorsport, number 16. But that is second fastest, albeit 2.8 seconds slower than Benham's time, as Claudio Sedanovic goes across the line and threads the eye of the needle there, 55 into second position, then ahead of the Giacomo Barato time.
I think that was Kjelman in the DKR car, because he's come in and out of the pits at the end of that first lap that had the spin. I expect to see these times coming down because, of course, the cars just behind Mike Benham would have been actually encountering that car recovering from the spin through the first chicane. So okay. Mike Benham is improving, but to the top goes the number 43 Kia Racing car. That is Joachim Fried, Swedish driver, with a 1:49.246. 1.278 seconds. Adrian Chiller goes second in the 39 Graf car.
So 3 coming into the pit lane, just driving straight through and back out again. So not even a change of Michelin tyres. I wonder whether they might change the tyres at DKR Engineering for fear of flat spots, but obviously not. Maybe Kerman wanting to try it for a bit longer, a few more laps to see whether the vibration is bad enough to then take on new tyres.
Big improvement from Mike Benham, 1:47.793. That's a lap that's unfettered by a car in his way at the first chicane.
A further improvement for Jack Wolf on that lap, and Tony Wells slotting into second fastest in the number 2 Nielsen Racing machine. So Benham quickest, Barato second, then it's Tony Wells for Lannon, BHK and Nielsen, and Kia Racing's Joachim Fried. As we said, he's going well, up to 4th again.
Well, looking down the 20 cars at the moment, I'm only looking at 3 sectors that are not either blue and an improvement or purple as best overall. Yeah. Everybody's going quicker here. It's quite a spread across the times for the 19 cars that have set time so far. But just about a quarter of a second between Benham and Barato. They're trading fastest sector times at the moment. Benham coming up top on the lap they're currently on. Mike Benham goes quickest of all in the first sector.
Joachim Fried turning into the Parabolica, so nearing the end of the lap in car number 43 for Keo Racing. And about to head across the line. This should again be an improvement. In fact, it's provisional pole for Joachim Fried. 78 thousandths of a second back to Mikey Benham. So are we going to have a repeat of the earlier session in terms of difference? I.e. there's virtually nothing between the top two cars.
Well, Mikey Benham I think is quicker on this lap, but I think Barato behind is just as quick, if not quicker than he is. So we've got three cars now locked in battle for pole position. Joachim Fried, Mikey Benham, Barato in the BHK car, 43, 25 and 16.
And also Marcello Maratiotto improving on that lap to go 5th fastest for DKR Engineering.
Benham goes half a second quicker. It's a 147.188.527.
Right then.
Here comes Barato. Tony Wells goes second.
He does. And there's a great stream of cars about to go across the line right behind him too. What can Jack Wolf do? Only 6th fastest so far, but Benham from Barato from Wells for her second, third.
So less than 4 tenths of a second separate the top three, just over 5 tenths to top four. It's another mightily close qualifying session, but perhaps the surprise here, Norma Ligier.
Eric Trouillet taking a while to come to the party, but slotting into 5th position in the number 9 Graf car. And ahead of his teammate Adrian Schiller. So Graf now 5th and 6th fastest. The biggest gap in the top 6 is actually 1st to 2nd. So there's room there for at least 4 more LMP3s between Benham and Barato's time.
But Benham rather disagrees. He's going quicker again. Another purple sector time for Mike Benham in the first sector of this lap. The number 5 car, meanwhile, Maratiotto, seeing on the screen, the background there. That car is running in 8th in the session for DKR Engineering.
Then it's about a second back behind Maratiotto's time to Mike Gwash and Mark Crader for United and for Grain Market Racing respectively, but so tight from 2nd fastest down to, well, pretty much 8th fastest for Marcello Maratiotto.
Battle for pole wide open. Maratiotto goes second with that lap. 147.192, 4 thousandths of a second. Oh dear me, deja vu.
That's what happened in the earlier session, although that was 3 thousandths eventually.
But watch Barato, but watch Benham, but watch Tony Wells, because Tony Wells is flying. Benham goes through. It's a red flag just as Benham completes the lap.
That's annoying.
That, I think, is going to rob Tony Wells. I think he was on for pole, you know.
We'll never know.
We will, because it shows the time. He was 3 tenths up on the pole time. Someone's been in the barrier there.
And that's the run down to the second chicane, isn't it? Out of the or maybe actually down towards Seraglio and the bridge approaching Ascari chicane. Is that out of the second Lesmo? Not sure which car's involved. And the slippery surface flag is out, but not because of any fluid down, because of the turf that has ended up on the track and also bits of car potentially.
I just wonder if anybody has got into the barrier or just a mess on the road.
And a big lose. Actually, it's the approach to the second chicane, isn't it? So I was right first time towards Roggia. So out of Curva Grande, you do not have a small incident there. And if it was a loop-the-loop, under braking,
wow.
It was. And that's is that the CD Sport car?
Is that the CD Sport car?
Number 30. Or is it? No, it's the number 11. I beg your pardon. So car number 11.
Charlie Martin.
For Racing Experience. And there was some contact with the Armco barrier, but
I'm not sure there was, you know.
There's damage on the front left corner. Do you think that's been created by the turf then being picked up? I just wonder whether there's been the slightest glancing blow for car number 11, but the red flag, I reckon, is out because of the amount of grass and turf that is now right on top of the track. So that's going to have to be swept before we can go live. The clock stopped, by the way. 5 minutes, 31 seconds still to go.
Just to reiterate what happened there, Mike Benham went to the top of timing and scoring just as the red flag came out. But definitely quicker on track, but with a time across the line with a quicker time, but it will not score. There was certainly contact with something, wasn't there?
Yeah. And it's taken a couple of dive planes away from the Racing Experience front left, but Charlie Martin has got away without a huge incident there, because, as I say, I think it's just a glancing blow for the number 11 car, and it's limping back. amazed she was able to find first gear and actually get to home as quick as she's managed there.
Absolutely. But the point was that just after the red flag came out and finishing the final sector was Tony Wells, I thought he was up, and he was. He would have been 3/10 up on Mike Benham. A great lap from Tony Wells, but he won't get it because it was under a red flag.
Yeah. So annoying for those that were on for a really good time and potentially pole position. But if you can do it once, you can do it again. The question is there enough time left on the clock? Well, you can do an outlap and one or two quick ones, depending on where you are in the queue. The hard-working Monza marshals are very quick to spring to action indeed. Then out of Curva Grande, this incident for Charlie Martin, which has meant that the track needs very much a sweep. In fact, it's going to be blow-dried as well by the tractor, which is working its way now out of that long right-hander. And let's hope that Charlie Martin's car can rejoin the session. The Racing Experience team are just working their way around the car to make sure there's nothing dragging from the under tray. That's not ideal for a qualifying session, the damage done to the front splitter, but I think might be potentially okay to throw that car back out into the session.
Might be safe. We'll wait and see what goes on with that one. Clean-up continues, 5.5 minutes on the clock. So stay with us, because this, I think, is going to get remarkably close again. Watch again. It was just snapped away, didn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe a glance with the barrier?
I think there was, yeah, because it suddenly arrived then at the chicane at a very different angle from how it left.
That's quite a lot of turf there, isn't it?
It's churned up a large amount of the grassy area to drivers left there, and the impact area, I think, just beyond where we initially saw the car lose grip on the approach to the second chicane.
They will not, I'm sure, be allowed to restart the session with bits kind of hanging like that. But that was the technical and safety delegates just taking a look, and that's the job. Make sure the cars are not released unless they're entirely safe.
Not the sort of damage that can be taped up either into position, because
that's it. Charlie, I think, is going to be getting out the car, and we'll take a look herself at it.
Yeah, significant chunks of carbon which have been bitten away.
You could see the disappointment on her face there.
I bet it didn't feel like too much, actually.
No.
It's just bounced the car back onto... I mean, the grass will be fairly sodden, so no grip there, but at least it wasn't a rough ride so much for the number 11 car, but just nosing very slightly into the metal Armco barrier, and that is session done.
I had a long chat with Charlie yesterday about the genesis of this team, the Hauser family. Father, 2 sons, 2 girlfriends involved. And all come from the wacky world of European hill climbing, as we go green flag racing again with 5 minutes and 25 seconds to go. David Hauser takes over from Gary here, and if you've not seen the extraordinary YouTube videos of him tackling spectacular European hill climb courses in a full house GP2 car, please give yourself the 3 or 4 minutes pleasure that will garner. I think some of Charlie's racing in that scene in a Formula Renault car well worth a look as well. So used to dealing with fine margins, I'm afraid this time it didn't quite work at it.
We should point out, actually, that assuming that car gets out for the race, and I see no reason why that can't happen, that it's a different Hauser racing this weekend compared to Paul Ricard. So David Hauser for driving duties here at Monza. It was brother Gary a month ago at Ricard, but David Hauser, a 2017 Dutch Supercar Challenge champion in the D2 category. So knows the circuit racing, but as you say, hill climbing very much the background of the Hauser family of Luxembourg. So another flag on the entry list.
And father, it's Christian Hauser, is the team principal here. I can't remember which of the brothers' better halves is the race engineer. The other better half being effectively the team gopher as well. So it is very much a family affair, a very happy team indeed, perhaps a little less happy just right now. But let's get back to the really quick stuff. It's going to be a rapid fire 4 minutes. Just about time, I think, Johnny, here for 2 flying laps of the cars, certainly the front of this queue.
Well, there's a big group of cars that stretches pretty much from the Ascari chicane all the way down to Parabolica, and they, if any, will be the ones that can squeeze out an additional lap, and then there were 1 or 2 late from the pit lane, including the 25 car of Mikey Benham, who at the moment hangs on to pole position. It was down to 4 thousandths of a second, a slightly more comfortable 0.25 or 0.26 to be exact now, from Benham back to Maratiotto. But as I say, there's plenty of space there. By the way of things, how things have panned out so far, to squeeze a few more cars between those two times.
It's going to be at 2 flying laps for most of the field. Let's see who can do what. Car 5 has been reported to the stewards. That's the DKR car of Maratiotto. We're crossing the white line at pit exit. That's probably just a little bit eager to get back into the fast lappery. Here's the number 20 car. This is the Grain Market Norma.
Yep.
And that car, that Crader in the car, into the top 10 there, 149.490.
Richier running a little bit wide coming out of the second of the chicanes with the second of the United Autosport cars, so that would have been
Jim Maguire.
I think it was Rob Hodes actually.
22 cars just had its lots undeleted.
Okay, no, it was Hodes, I think, just running a touch wide, not on a fast lap, but just dropping the wheels off into the gravelly area. 24 is ahead on the road, which is Mike Gouache. So those two circulating together and might be able to use one another actually, although Gouache is just too far ahead of Hodes on this particular lap down the back straight, as reaching the second of the, or rather the Ascari chicane, so the third of the chicanes on the lap, is Francois Kerman in the DKR engineering machine. That's a car that's not really featured in the session so far, 15th position. But Kerman, race leader at Paul Ricard earlier on in the year, so that car could still come good in the remaining 1 minute and 46 seconds. That time is crucial because anybody crossing the line now will get the next lap, but no more.
Absolutely right. Here we go. These are the quick times beginning to come now. Who's improved? Kerman has, and goes second. It's 0.114. The number 3 car. So comes leaping up the order. DKR Engineering then filled the second and third spaces now. It's all of a sudden a normal 1, 2, 3. So Benham from Kierman for Maratiotto, then Barato in the first of the Ligiers for BHK. Tony Wells, though, makes it a 1, 2, 3, 4. Can't match the pace he had right at the end of the period up to the red flag. Off goes the second of the DKR cars. That's the number 5 car.
Yeah. Jack Wolf about to cross the line. I reckon Jack could be onto something half decent. It's 7th place for the CD Sport car, so he'll get one more lap, but that will be it with just 45 seconds now remaining on the clock. Benham from Kerman from Maratiotto, and then Tony Wells. So that's 2 DKR engineering cars, second and third, but they can only get within a 10th of Mikey Benham's time.
Mikey Benham is going quickly now on this, his final flying lap. This was the moment for the number 5 car. That could have been a very big shunt indeed, couldn't it? But
yes,
managed to keep it almost in a straight line.
Out of the Ascari chicane and just running out of road through that left hand, the second of the left hand elements of the Ascari chicane, which takes you onto the back straight, but looping round Marcello Maratiotto.
It won't have helped his humour to hear the fact that that was deleted for track limits.
Double whammy. Oh dear. 3 seconds to go. The checkered flag's going to be displayed therefore to the 2 United Autosports machines, I reckon. Gouache, yes, is the first to receive, and Rod Hodes actually goes a smidge quicker than his teammates on that final lap. It's a 10th of a second between Hodes and Gouache's times, and everybody else now behind these 2 United Autosport machines will be seeing the checkered flag.
Watching Jochen Fried's time, that looks to be an improvement on the way for the Kia Racing car. That sat at the top of time in the scoring for a little wee while. Mike Benham is improving on this lap.
Kerman pitted, so didn't take the checkered flag on the track, but we do have improvements at the top, Graham.
We do, and it goes. Fried takes it. Tony Wells improved again, but Fried takes it right at the flag. What can anybody else do? It's all changed in the last 10 seconds. Mike Benham improved his time to a 1:46.926. Tony Wells then went through just under a 10th quicker than that, and almost immediately it's at 1.115 a second. Jochen Fried comes through at 1:46.691. It's pole at the moment for the Ligier.
Incredible stuff. Marcello Manatiotto, the only guy now that could change it, but he's not up through either of the first 2 sectors, so unlikely to improve, although Adrian Schiller goes third for Graf Racing. That's another Norma. Benham back to third position, ahead of Kerman now. So was that deleted, in fact, for 39? Yes, it was. So as you were regarding the 39's time, but amazingly, against all odds, Joachim Fried, Kio Racing, it's going to be a Ligier pole position at Monza.
Wow. In fact, that's we had a Ligier pole at Paul Ricard as well, didn't we, for your international, from memory?
But here at Monza, as we've already mentioned, in the free practice times, it really looked like Norma had it nailed here, regardless of which team it may be. But it's Ligier and the JSP3 then that takes pole by 0.1 of a second, which is a considerable margin around this 5.7 kilometre circuit. Wow.
But again, tiny margins here.
Yeah.
10th from first to second, another 10th from second to third, another 10th from third to fourth, a 10th and a half back to fifth, another 10th and a half to sixth, less than a 10th to 7th, half a 10th to 8th, and then we get into some more serious gaps. So the top 8 separated by 0.780 of a second. Ligier, Norma, and Norma. Something we'd have heard from one of our Prime Ministers not that long ago, but that's the order. Second, down through 7th, before we get to the second Ligier, Barato for BHK in 8th position.
Best Ligier at Ricard on the grid was 8th position behind 7 Normas, and we've got 6 Normas there in a big old block, but they're all at least a 10th of a second slower than Joachim Fried's time. So we have to get some reaction quite clearly from Kio Racing and from Joachim Fried's teammate now joining Louise Beckett.
Well, Mike has got a big smile on his face. That was a great performance.
Yeah, really, Joachim did a fantastic job. We were a bit far behind in the practice, but we didn't have new tires, and now with new tires, we made it to P1. It's just an amazing job for Joachim.
Right in the last moments as well. So did you expect it?
It looked tough. It looked really tough. We were down to 7th place before the last lap, and then he put it together. So that is really, really great job.
Great, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Michael Markusson then, the Dane, who is sharing with Swedish driver Joachim Fried. It's Fried who's the bronze, Markusson the silver, and which route will Kio Racing go as to who starts the race later on at 4 o'clock? So confirmation again of the times, not quite as close as it was in the GT3s, although we did have a 4,000th of a second gap at one point in the session. Kio Racing bag a first pole then of the year with the 43 car. Nielsen Racing ran it close, and Tony Wells and Mikey Benham up to third position. Francois Kerman, who took pole position at Paul Ricard for DKR Engineering, will start from 4th place ahead of teammate Marcello Manatiotto. And for Graf, came so close to a 3rd place start on the grid, but that lap time for the number 30 car and Adrian Schiller was deleted because of track limits. So the best placed Graf car will be Eric Trouillet's number 9 car from 6th place.
Another cracking qualifying session for the Michelin Le Mans Cup. But it ends with the Kio Racing Ligier at the top, Johnny.
Yeah, and a gap of just 0.003 of a second in GT3. That was an incredible watch for 15 minutes. The red flag obviously halting proceedings in LMP3. We're set for a superb race, I'm sure you'll agree, at Monza later on. It's a 4 p.m. start, Central European summertime. Be sure to join Graham Goodwin and Johnny Palmer and Louise Beckett indeed for coverage later on today for the Michelin Le Mans Cup.